Hey everyone, today we're going to take an in-depth look at the Knicks offseason options and explore some potential trade targets that could help elevate this team to championship contender status. First things first, let's set the stage. The Knicks are coming off a fantastic season where they won 50 games and made it to the second round of the playoffs. They've got a young, talented core led by Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, and they've shown that they can compete with anyone in the East. But if they want to take that next step and become a true title threat, they need to make some moves this summer. Why is this offseason so crucial? Well, it all comes down to the new collective bargaining agreement. Once the new CBA kicks in, it's going to be a lot harder for teams to make big splashes in free agency or pull off blockbuster trades. The rules are designed to promote parity and keep teams together, which is great for competitive balance, but not so great if you're a team like the Knicks who need to make some upgrades. So, if the Knicks are going to make a move, this is the summer to do it. And the good news is that they have plenty of assets to work with. Let's start with the draft picks. The Knicks have all of their own future first-round picks, which is huge. Too many teams mortgage their future for short-term gains. But the Knicks have been smart about holding on to their picks. They've also got 4 extra first-rounders coming their way. They have the 24th and 25th picks in this year's draft, which could be used to add some young talent or as trade chips. They've got a future first from the Bucks that should be pretty valuable given Milwaukee's age and potential for decline, and they've got 2 more firsts from the Pistons and Wizards that are a bit more uncertain but could still be useful in the right deal. But the draft picks are just the start. The Knicks also have some very movable contracts that could help them match salary in a trade. The most obvious one is Bojan Bogdanovic. Bogey is a great player, but he's on an expiring deal, and the Knicks might not be able to afford to keep him long-term. His $19 million salary can be traded straight up for a player making anywhere from $11.8 million to $26.3 million. That's a huge range that covers a lot of potential targets. If the Knicks are looking to acquire a player making less than $11.8 million, they've got options there too. They could package Bogdanovic with some of their smaller contracts like Daquan Jeffries, Mamadi Diakite, or Jericho Sims. Those guys are all on very team-friendly deals that could help make the math work in a trade. Now, if the Knicks really want to go big game hunting, they've got the ammo to do it. By combining Bogdanovic and Mitchell Robinson's contracts, they can bring back nearly $42 million in salary. That's a huge chunk of change. And if they need to get to an even higher number, they could throw in a few more of those smaller contracts to get to over $50 million. Why is that number important? Because $50 million is just above the projected max salary for a 10-plus year veteran next season. So if there's a superstar on the market, the Knicks have the pieces to make a competitive offer. Of course, making trades is not just about matching salaries, it's about finding the right player who fits your team's needs and timeline. And that's where things get really interesting for the Knicks. Assuming they re-sign OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein, the Knicks will have a very solid starting 5. Brunson, Anunoby, DiVincenzo, Randle, and Hartenstein is a lineup that can compete with anyone in the East. They've got scoring, defense, rebounding, and plenty of lineup versatility. So, where could they look to upgrade? In my opinion, their biggest need is a super 6th man, someone who can come off the bench and keep the offense humming when Brunson and Randle are resting. Ideally, this player would be able to play heavy minutes alongside the starters as well, giving Tibbs even more options to mix and match his lineups. The Knicks have some good young players on the bench, like Miles McBride, but they could really use a veteran presence who can create his own shot, run the second unit, and provide some leadership in the locker room. Of course, any player the Knicks target needs to fit their timeline and culture. They're not looking for a quick fix or a rental player. They want someone who can grow with their young core and be a part of their long-term success. And they definitely want to avoid anyone with a bloated long-term contract that could hamstring their flexibility down the road. So, who are some players that could fit that bill? Well, there are a few big names that have been linked to the Knicks in trade rumors, but I'm not sure they're the best fit. Jimmy Butler. Let's start with Jimmy Butler. There's no doubt that Butler is a Tibbs type of player. He's tough, he's competitive, and he leaves it all on the floor every night. But he's also 34 years old and has a lot of miles on his body. He's missed an average of 21 games per season over the last 4 years, and that's a concern for a team that wants to compete for a championship. There's also the question of Butler's fit with the current roster. He's at his best with the ball in his hands, but the Knicks already have 2 high-usage players in Brunson and Randle. Adding another could upset the delicate balance they've struck. Plus, Butler is reportedly looking for a massive extension that could pay him over $50 million per year well into his late 30s. That's a huge risk for any team to take, let alone one that's trying to build something sustainable. Donovan Mitchell. Next up is Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell is a dynamic scorer who would certainly add some firepower to the Knicks' offense. But again, there are some fit concerns. Mitchell is only 6'3", which would give the Knicks a very small backcourt alongside the 6'2" Brunson. That could be a defensive liability against bigger guards and wings. There's also the question of what it would take to get Mitchell. The Jazz were reportedly asking for a massive haul of picks and young players when the Knicks were pursuing Mitchell 2 summers ago. Has that price come down from Cleveland? Maybe, but it's still likely to be steep. And even if the Knicks could put together a competitive package, there's no guarantee that Mitchell would want to leave Cleveland. The Cavs can offer him a lucrative extension, and they look like they're trying to build something special with their young core. Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is another name that's been floated as a potential Knicks target. Ingram is a skilled scorer and playmaker who could theoretically slot in as the Knicks' third option behind Randle and Brunson. But again, I have some concerns about the fit. Ingram is used to having the ball in his hands a lot, and he's not the most efficient scorer. His shooting percentages have been pretty average throughout his career, and he's not a great three-point shooter, which is something the Knicks could really use around Brunson and Randle. There's also the question of Ingram's defense. He's got the size and length to be a good defender, but he's never really been known for his effort or consistency on that end of the floor. Tibbs demands a lot from his players defensively, and Ingram might not be the best fit for his system. Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a name that gets Knicks fans really excited, and for good reason. He's a young, versatile big man who can protect the rim, switch on to perimeter players, and space the floor with his three-point shooting. He would be an incredible fit next to Randle in the front court. But here's the thing. The Grizzlies are not trading Jaren Jackson Jr. He's a cornerstone of their franchise, and they just signed him to a big extension last summer. Unless something goes horribly wrong in Memphis, Jackson is going to be a Grizzly for a long time. LeBron James. Finally, we have to talk about LeBron James. Every summer there are rumors about LeBron potentially coming to the Knicks, and every summer, those rumors amount to nothing. But let's indulge the fantasy for a moment. LeBron on the Knicks would be incredible. He's still one of the best players in the world, even at age 39. He would instantly make the Knicks a title contender, and the buzz around the team would be unreal. But it's just not going to happen. For one, the Lakers can offer LeBron a massive extension this summer. They can also trade for another star player to help LeBron compete for another championship. And even if LeBron did decide he wanted to come to New York, the cost would be astronomical. The Knicks would have to give up a massive package of picks and young players, and they'd be taking on a huge salary for a player who, as great as he is nearing the end of his career. It's just not a smart move for a team that's trying to build something sustainable for the long haul. So, if those big names are off the table, who should the Knicks be targeting? Well, there are two players that I think are really intriguing: Mikal Bridges and Paul George. Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges has been a hot name in Knicks circles for a while now, and for good reason. He's a prototypical 3-and-D wing who would slot in perfectly with the Knicks' current core. He's long, athletic, and can guard multiple positions. He's also a great spot-up shooter who could thrive playing off of Brunson and Randle. The problem with Bridges is the cost. The Nets are not going to trade him to their crosstown rival unless the Knicks absolutely blow them away with an offer. We're talking multiple first-round picks, plus players like Miles McBride and possibly Randle, and even then, the Nets might prefer to send Bridges elsewhere. They reportedly turned down some big offers for him at the deadline, including one from the Rockets that included multiple picks and young players. So, while Bridges would be a fantastic fit, the Knicks might not have the assets to get a deal done. And even if they did, they'd have to ask themselves if it's worth gutting their depth and future draft capital for a player who, while very good, isn't quite a superstar. Paul George. The other really intriguing name is Paul George. George has been one of the best two-way players in the league for a decade now. He's an elite shooter, a great playmaker, and a lockdown defender when he's engaged. He would be an incredible fit next to Brunson in the backcourt. The concerns with George are his age and injury history. He's 34 years old and has missed significant time in each of his first 4 seasons in LA. He's also looking for one more massive contract as he's entering the back 9 of his career. That's a lot of money for a player who might not be able to stay on the court. But here's the thing. If George is healthy, he's still an absolute difference maker. He proved that in the playoffs this year, where he lit up the Dallas Mavericks for 26 first-half points in Game 4 of their first-round series. Those are superstar numbers. The tricky part with George is that he's set to become an unrestricted free agent this summer. The Clippers can offer him a massive extension, but there are rumors that he might want to explore his options. If he decides he wants to leave LA, the Knicks could be an intriguing destination. The Knicks would have to work out a sign-and-trade with the Clippers, which would be complicated. They'd probably have to send out Bojan Bogdanovic's contract, plus some combination of picks and other players. But if they could make the math work, George could be a huge addition. Of course, this is all just speculation. It's fun to imagine these big names in a Knicks uniform, but the reality is that blockbuster trades are hard to pull off. They require a perfect storm of circumstances, an available star, a motivated trading partner, and the right package of assets. More likely, the Knicks will look to make smaller, more targeted moves. They'll try to find value on the margins, whether that's taking a flyer on a young player with upside or adding a veteran on a team-friendly deal. They'll also look to the draft to add some cheap, controllable talent to their core. But no matter what they do, the Knicks have to stay true to their identity. They've built a tough, competitive team that plays hard on both ends of the floor. They've got a great young core that seems to genuinely like playing together. Any moves they make need to complement that core, not disrupt it. So, while it's fun to dream about the big names, the Knicks' best path forward might be to stay the course. Keep developing their young players, make smart additions around the margins, and trust that their current core can take another step forward next season. But hey, that's just my take. I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think the Knicks should be targeting this offseason? Should they swing for the fences and try to land a big star, or should they stay patient and continue to build through the draft and smart free agent signings? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the Knicks offseason plans, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We're going to be covering the Knicks all offseason long, so you won't want to miss a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Knicks Talk.